They said she was nothing. They said she deserved the pain she received. They said her pregnancy was proof that she was a disgrace. But the world would soon learn that her suffering was only the beginning of a miracle. This is the story of a poor orphan girl named Faber. A girl who was treated like dust, yet rose to become a symbol of hope. Before this story begins, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because what you are about to hear may change the way you see life forever. In a quiet village surrounded by dry farmlands and narrow, dusty roads, lived a young girl named Faber. She had soft brown skin, tired eyes that carried too many tears for her age, and a gentle voice that rarely rose above a whisper. Her life had not always been filled with pain. When Faber was 6 years old, she still remembered sitting on her mother's lap, listening to bedtime stories and feeling safe in her arms. Her mother was a kind woman who sold vegetables in the market and always told Faber that one day she would become someone great. But sickness came suddenly. For months, her mother grew weaker. One morning, she did not wake up. Faber was too young to understand death. She only knew that her world had gone silent. Her father tried to stay strong for her. He worked long hours as a carpenter, building wooden stools and doors for people in the village. He loved Faber deeply, but loneliness pushed him into another marriage. That marriage changed everything. Her new stepmother, Madame Veronica, came with her daughter Linda. Madame Veronica was a tall woman with sharp eyes and a voice that cut like a knife. Linda was only 2 years older than Faber, but already full of pride and cruelty at first. Madame Veronica pretended to be kind. She cooked for Faber. She smiled. She called her my child. But when Faber's father died in a sudden road accident, the mask fell off. The funeral had not even ended when Madame Veronica's heart hardened. From that day on, Faber stopped being a daughter and became a servant. Every morning before the sun rose, Faber was forced out of bed. "Wake up, useless girl." Madame Veronica would shout. "Water won't fetch itself." Faber would carry heavy buckets from the river, her small arms shaking with every step. She cooked, she washed, she cleaned, she swept. She worked until her feet ached and her fingers cracked. Linda did nothing. Linda slept late. Linda played with her phone. Linda mocked Faber from the doorway. "Orphan girl," Linda laughed, "you were born to suffer." If the food tasted wrong, Faber was beaten. If the floor was dusty, she was insulted. If Linda complained, Faber was punished. "You are lucky I keep you here," Madame Veronica would say. "Otherwise, you would be begging in the streets." At night, Faber cried quietly on a thin mat on the cold floor. Her only escape was school. She loved school. She loved books. She loved reading. She loved dreaming. Her teachers said she was brilliant. They said she had a future, but Madame Veronica hated that future. One afternoon, she came back from the market angry. "Why should I waste money on your school fees?" she shouted. "Linda needs new clothes." The next day, Faber did not return to school. Her uniform was taken away. Her books were burned. Her dreams were locked inside her heart. Years passed. Faber grew into a young woman with quiet beauty and a soul full of pain. Her face carried scars from beatings. Her eyes carried the sadness of rejection. She still worked from morning till night. One evening, while selling vegetables by the roadside, Faber noticed a man sitting alone at a broken bus stop. His clothes were dusty. His shoes were worn. His face looked tired and hungry. Something in her heart moved. She walked to him and offered, the bread she had saved for herself. "Thank you," he said gently. "My name is Daniel." They talked. For the first time in her life, someone listened to Favor. She told him about her suffering, about Madame Veronica, about Linda, about her lost dreams. Daniel listened without judgment. "I believe you will rise one day," he told her. "Life has not finished with you yet." They met again and again, always in public places, always with respect, always with kindness. Daniel never touched her wrongly, never forced her, never disrespected her. Favor felt safe. One evening, Daniel said, "One day I will return for you. I promise." Favor believed him. What she did not know was that Daniel was not a poor traveler. He was a billionaire hiding his identity to find true love. And this promise would soon change everything, but before destiny could reveal itself. A terrible storm was about to hit Favor's life, because love would bring pregnancy, and pregnancy would bring rejection, and rejection would bring pain beyond imagination. And that is where the real test of Favor's faith would begin. Days passed after Daniel made his promise, and Favor carried those words in her heart like a fragile treasure. She still woke before dawn. She still carried water. She still cooked and cleaned. But now something new lived inside her. Hope. Sometimes, while scrubbing the floor, she would whisper Daniel's name as if it were a prayer. Yet her body began to change. At first, she felt tired all the time. Her stomach turned whenever she smelled food. Her steps became slower. Madame Veronica noticed. "Why are you lazy these days?" She shouted. "Do you think you are a queen now?" Linda laughed from her chair. "Maybe she is pretending to be sick so she can avoid work." Favor said nothing. Weeks later, she fainted while washing clothes by the river. When she woke up, an old woman from the village was standing over her. "My child," the woman said softly. "You were with child." The words hit Favor like thunder. Pregnant, her heart raced. Her hands shook. Her thoughts became a storm. She remembered Daniel's promise. She remembered his kindness. She believed he would return. But fear walked beside hope. How would Madame Veronica react? How would Linda mock her? For days, Favor hid her condition. She tied cloth tightly around her waist. She worked through pain. She slept little. One night she stayed awake, preparing food for the next morning, because Madame Veronica had guests coming. Her eyes burned from exhaustion. Her legs trembled. By sunrise, she collapsed in the kitchen. Madame Veronica found her lying on the floor. "Are you dead?" she shouted. Linda rushed in and noticed Favor's swollen belly. "Mother, look at her stomach." Madame Veronica's face changed. "What is this?" she demanded. Favor tried to stand. Her voice shook. "I am pregnant." Silence fell like a heavy stone. Then Madame Veronica screamed, "You wicked girl! You brought shame into my house." Linda clapped her hands and laughed. "I told you she was useless." Favor cried. "It was not my fault. He promised he would return for me." Madame Veronica slapped her across the face. "Which man touched you? Which dog made you pregnant?" Favor fell to her knees. "I loved him. He was kind to me." Linda spat on the floor. "Kind men don't leave girls pregnant." Madame Veronica grabbed Favor's hair and dragged her across the room. "You will not disgrace my family," she shouted. "You will not turn my house into a place of shame." That night, Favor was locked outside. Rain fell. cold wind blew. She sat on the ground, hugging her stomach and crying, inside the house. Linda and Madame Veronica ate dinner and laughed. The next morning, Madame Veronica threw a small bag of clothes at her. "Take your shame and go," she said. "Never step in this house again." Favor begged, "Please, mother, I have nowhere to go." Madame Veronica pushed her. "Go and die with your bastard child." The door slammed. Favor stood in the road, barefoot and trembling. People passed and whispered, "Look at her. She is pregnant. Such a disgrace." Her tears mixed with dust. She walked without direction, without food, without shelter at night. She slept in an abandoned building. Dogs barked nearby. Cold air touched her skin. She talked to her unborn child. "My baby, I don't know where we are going, but I will not abandon you." Days turned into weeks. Her stomach grew. Her strength faded. Some people gave her leftovers. Some insulted her. Some avoided her. One night, rain poured heavily. Favor collapsed beside the road. An old woman approached her with a lantern. "My child," the woman said gently, "why are you here in this condition?" Her name was Mama Grace. Favor told her everything: her childhood, her suffering, Daniel, her pregnancy, and how she was thrown out. Mama Grace wept. "You will come with me," she said. "You are not alone anymore." She took Favor to a small church shelter. For the first time in months, Favor slept on a bed. Months later, her labor came. Pain filled the night. Tears soaked the pillow. By morning, a baby boy was born. Favor held him close and whispered, "I will call you Hope, because you saved me from dying." But even in this small happiness, fear still lived in her heart. Would Daniel ever return? Would the world ever see her innocence? Or would she remain the girl who was thrown away? And while Favor struggled to survive, far away in the city, Daniel was searching, and destiny was preparing a shocking reunion. Life at the small church shelter was not easy, but it was peaceful. For the first time in her life, Favor slept without fear of being beaten. For the first time, she woke up without insults. For the first time, someone called her "my child" with love. Mama Grace treated her like her own daughter. She taught Favor how to care for baby Hope. She taught her how to sew clothes. She taught her how to cook for the other women in the shelter. Favor's hands were still tired, but her heart felt lighter every night. She looked at her son and whispered, "You will never be treated the way I was treated." Baby Hope grew quickly. His eyes were bright. His laughter filled the shelter. Other women began to smile again because of him, but pain still lived inside Favor. Sometimes, when she saw families walking together, she cried quietly, "Where is your father?" She would whisper to Hope. She never blamed Daniel. She only wondered if he had forgotten her. Far away in the city, Daniel was not living in peace either. When he returned to his mansion, his servants were shocked. "Where have you been all this time, sir?" they asked. Daniel locked himself in his room. He thought of Favor every day. He thought of her voice. He thought of her kindness. He had gone back to get money and prepare a home for her. But when he returned to the village, she was gone. Her house was empty. Neighbors whispered. They chased her away. She was pregnant. She disappeared. Daniel's heart broke. "Find her," he ordered his men. "Search every shelter, every village, every town." Weeks passed. Then months. Favor continued living at the shelter. One afternoon, Mama Grace said, My child, you are strong. You must not hide forever. You must learn again. Favor joined adult classes. She learned to read again. She learned to write again. Her confidence slowly returned. One day, while selling handmade clothes in the market, she heard a familiar voice. Favor. She turned. It was Daniel. For a moment, the world stopped. Her heart pounded. Her hands trembled. Her eyes filled with tears. You came, she whispered. Daniel looked at hope in her arms. My son, he said softly. People gathered around. Daniel knelt before Favor. I am sorry I was not there, he said. I was preparing a life for you. I never knew they threw you away. Favor cried. I waited for you, she said. I suffered, but I kept believing. Daniel stood and held her hands. There is something you must know, he said. I am not a poor man. I hid who I was because I wanted true love. Cars arrived. Guards stepped out. The crowd gasped. Favor was shocked. You are rich. Daniel smiled sadly. Yes, and you are the woman I choose. Before we continue this powerful moment, let us pause for a second. If this story is touching your heart, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life. Now, let us continue. News spread like wildfire. Orphan girl meets billionaire. Poor mother of one revealed as future wife. Madame Veronica and Linda saw it on television. Their hands shook. That is her, Linda whispered. Madame Veronica fell into a chair. We destroyed our own blessing, she cried. Daniel brought favor and hope to a beautiful home. Favor saw her reflection in mirrors for the first time. She wore clean clothes. She slept on a soft bed. She ate without fear, but she never forgot her past. Daniel took her to a hospital. He enrolled her in school again. He treated hope as his heir. Yet the world was watching. Reporters came. Cameras flashed. They asked cruel questions. Were you a prostitute? Did you trap him with pregnancy? Favor cried that night. Daniel held her. Your story will silence them, he said. And that story would soon shake the world, because Madame Veronica and Linda would soon face what they had done, and Favor would be given a voice, not as a victim, but as a symbol of hope. The next morning, headlines filled every screen. Billionaire finds lost love. Poor orphan girl revealed as mother of his child. A love story that shook the nation. Favor could not step outside without cameras following her at first. She wanted to hide. I am afraid, she told Daniel. They will judge me again. Daniel looked at her gently. You have been silent your whole life, he said, but your silence almost killed you. Now your voice will heal others. A women's organization invited Favor to speak at a public conference. The hall was full. Lights were bright. People waited. Favor stood backstage, shaking. Mama Grace held her hand. You survived the worst night of your life, Mama Grace whispered. This is just another step toward light. When Favor walked onto the stage, the room went quiet. She saw faces from every walk of life. Mothers, young girls, journalists, even politicians. She held baby Hope in her arms. My name is Favor, she began softly. I was an orphan. I was beaten. I was treated like a servant in my own home. The room listened. I did not go to school because my stepmother said I was not worth it. I was called useless. I was called a disgrace. Her voice trembled. When I became pregnant, I was thrown into the street like garbage. Gasps filled the hall. I slept in abandoned houses. I begged for food. I almost died. She lifted hope higher, but this child became my reason to live. Tears flowed across the audience. I stand here today not because I am lucky, but because someone finally believed my story. The hall erupted in applause. That same night, Madame Veronica and Linda watched the speech on television. Linda covered her face. "Mother, everyone knows what we did." Madame Veronica's hands shook. "They will curse us," she whispered. The next day, reporters came to their house. "Why did you throw out a pregnant orphan? Do you regret your actions?" Madame Veronica closed the door and collapsed on the floor. For the first time, shame entered her heart days later. Madame Veronica and Linda went to Daniel's gate. Security guards blocked them. "We want to see Favor." Madame Veronica cried when Favor heard. Her heart pounded. She had not seen them since the night she was thrown out. Daniel asked gently, "Do you want to see them?" Favor breathed deeply. "Yes, I will face them." They were brought inside. Madame Veronica looked smaller than before. Linda's eyes were red from crying. Madame Veronica fell to her knees. "My child, forgive me," she sobbed. "I was blinded by pride and cruelty." Linda cried, "We were jealous of you. We hated your goodness." Favor stood silently. Her hands shook. Her heart hurt. "You beat me. You threw me away. You laughed when I cried." Madame Veronica bowed her head. "We deserve punishment." Favor looked at baby Hope. Then she spoke slowly. "I will forgive you, but forgiveness does not erase truth." She turned to Daniel. "I want them to confess publicly." Daniel nodded. A press conference was arranged. Madame Veronica stood before cameras. "I abused Favor. I denied her education. I threw her out while pregnant." Linda confessed to "I mocked her. I enjoyed her suffering." The nation was shocked. Lawsuits followed. The house they lived in was taken back because it was originally Favor's father's property. Madame Veronica and Linda became poor. They moved into a small, rented room, and for the first time, they knew hunger. Meanwhile, Favor's story spread worldwide. Women wrote letters. "I was beaten too. I was rejected too. Your story saved me." Favor started visiting shelters. She hugged homeless girls. She paid school fees for orphans. She spoke to the broken. One day she said, "My pain is not a curse. It is my calling." But another storm was still coming, because Daniel's wealthy family did not accept Favor, and soon they would test her strength again. Daniel's return to the world of wealth brought another battle. His family lived in a massive estate surrounded by guards and marble walls. They had always believed he would marry a woman of power, beauty, and high status. When they heard about Favor, the orphan girl with a child, anger filled the house. "This girl will disgrace our name," Daniel's mother said sharply. She came from the streets. His sisters whispered among themselves. "She trapped him with pregnancy. She wants his money." They invited Daniel and Favor to a family. Gathering Favor wore a simple dress. She held baby Hope close. When she entered the grand hall, eyes followed her like knives. No one greeted her. Daniel's mother stood. "Who are you really?" she asked coldly. "Where did you come from?" Favor bowed respectfully. I am an orphan. I was raised by a stepmother who mistreated me. Daniel's uncle laughed. So you want to become part of our bloodline? Favor's hands shook. I only want to live in peace and raise my child with love. The family was silent. Later that night, Daniel's mother spoke privately to him. You must choose, she said. Your family or that girl. Daniel looked at her. I already chose, he said. She is my family. But the pressure continued. Newspapers published lies. She used pregnancy to trap. Billionaire, she was immoral. Favor cried many nights. I cannot fight them, she told Daniel. They are powerful. Daniel held her. You survived worse than this. Another women's conference was organized. This time, Favor spoke boldly. I was called dirty. I was rejected. But I did not sleep with a man for money. I loved him as a human being. The crowd clapped. Daniel's family watched from their mansion. Silence filled the room. Weeks later, Daniel's mother visited Favor alone. She saw hope playing on the floor. She saw Favor feeding children from shelters. She saw tears in Favor's eyes as she prayed. Her heart softened. You are not what they said, she whispered. Favor knelt. I want no title. I only want to be a good mother. Daniel's mother cried. Forgive me, the family announced. Acceptance. The media changed its tone. A woman of strength. A symbol of forgiveness. Madame Veronica and Linda watched everything. From their small rented room, they worked hard now. They no longer mocked anyone. They remembered their past with regret. Daniel proposed to Favor under the stars. Will you marry me? Favor cried and said yes. The wedding was simple. Mama Grace walked her down the aisle. Orphans filled the front seats. Hope carried flowers, Favor whispered. I was once thrown away. Now I am chosen. But her greatest work was still ahead. She created a movement. No girl is disposable. Shelters were built. Schools were funded. Voices were raised. Favor spoke to the world. My pain became my purpose. My child became my miracle. And finally, peace came to her heart. Years passed, and Favor's name became known across cities and villages. People no longer called her the girl who was thrown away. They called her the woman who rose from rejection. Her foundation built shelters for homeless girls. It paid school fees for orphans. It protected young mothers who had nowhere to go. Baby Hope grew into a bright, kind boy who loved to hold his mother's hand whenever she spoke in public. One day, a reporter asked him, "Do you know who your mother is?" Hope smiled and said, "She is the strongest person I know." Daniel watched with pride. Madame Veronica and Linda lived quietly now. They worked small jobs. They helped others when they could. Their pride was gone, but humility had replaced it. One afternoon, they came to one of Favor's shelters with food donations. Madame Veronica knelt before Favor. "I destroyed you," she said, "but you became greater than me." Favor lifted her up. "You did wrong," she said gently, "but today you can do right." That day, forgiveness closed a chapter of pain at a world conference on women and children. Favor stood before thousands. She said, "I was beaten when I was weak. I was rejected when I needed love most. But I learned something important." She lifted her hand. "Your worst moment does not define your future. Your pain can become your power, and your child can become your reason to live." The world listened, governments partnered with her foundation. Laws were passed to protect abused orphans. Shelters multiplied. Daniel held her hand one night and said, "You changed the world." Favor smiled. "No," she said. "My suffering showed the world what love can do." Years later, she returned to the village where everything began. She stood before the old, broken house. Children gathered around her. She said, "This is where I was called useless. This is where I was thrown away. But this is where my story started." She built a school there, on the gate. She wrote, "Hope ACADMYB," 'cause her son's name had become her mission. One night, as Favor watched Hope sleep, she whispered, "If the world had not rejected me, I would not have learned to love it." And so, the orphan who was once beaten and abandoned became a mother of millions. Her story spread across nations, not as a story of shame, but as a story of courage, not as a story of rejection, but as a story of destiny. If this story touched your heart, remember this. If you feel unwanted, remember Favor. If you feel rejected, remember Favor. If you feel like your life has ended, remember Favor, because sometimes what the world calls disgrace is actually the beginning of greatness. Thank you for watching this story. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share it with someone who needs hope today. And never forget, your story is not over yet.